What's up, RoundBall Nation? Welcome back. If you caught our last episode, Atlantic Division Preview, The Empire Strikes Back, you already know we kicked off the Eastern Conference with a bang. The rest of the Atlantic was ready for a fight, and the Knicks came out swinging. Now, we're keeping that same energy rolling as we head to the Heartland, the Central Division. This is where the battles get gritty. We've got Giannis and the Bucks looking to reclaim their crown, the Cavaliers trying to take the next step with Donovan Mitchell, the Pacers trying to find a new identity without Tyrese Halliburton, the Bulls hanging on to their core for one last ride, and the Pistons, well, they're young, hungry, and trying to prove they belong in the mix. Before we dive in, if you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment down below. Tell us which Central Division team you think makes the biggest leap this year. Your engagement keeps this show growing and helps other hoop heads find the therapy they didn't know they needed. And hey, the call-in line is open. You can join the conversation by calling 216-452-8813. Leave your take, your hot prediction, or that one rant you've been saving for the season tip-off. We might feature your call in a future episode. So settle in. For the next half hour or so, we're breaking down everything you need to know about the Central Division, the contenders, the rebuilders, and those teams stuck somewhere in between. Let's kick things off in Chicago with the Bulls. Last season, they finished 39-43, a record that reflects a team in transition, trying to balance development and competitiveness. As we head into 25 and 26, Chicago is leaning more fully into its young core, while holding on to enough veteran presence to stay interesting night in and night out. The roster you'll see this year is different and bold. The lead backcourt is Josh Giddey, signed to a long-term extension, tasked with being the playmaking engine and future centerpiece. Supporting him is Kobe White, a scorer who can push the pace and create offense. On the wing, Isaac Okoro steps in as a defensive stopper and transition threat, a young player with toughness and energy to set the tone on both ends. His addition helps balance a roster that's often struggled defensively. In the front court, Nikola Vucevic brings size, rebounding, and interior scoring, a steadying veteran presence amid youth. Mateus Buzelis is among the younger forwards expected to take real strides this season. Kevin Huerter, Zach Collins, and Patrick Williams round out the rotation, offering shooting, toughness, and depth. On the developmental side, new faces like Noah Senge and two-way players like Lachlan Albright will be monitored for flashes of growth. This is a roster balancing project. Giddey and White at the top, Vucevic anchoring inside, and supporting cast built to develop and surprise. Now let's talk about expectations and how the market views this team. Most sports books have set the Bulls' win total at around 32.5 wins for the 25 and 26 season. That's a low bar, especially for a team that's shown it can be competitive. Some analysts, though, are pushing the over, arguing that with growth, Chicago would outperform that by a meaningful margin. But the betting consensus is cautious, reflecting uncertainty around consistency, shooting, and reliable production from the younger players. Given everything, roster, division strength, and schedule difficulty, I project the Bulls will land in the 34 to 38 win range. That probably places them in the play-in conversation or just outside of it. They won't be favorites this year, but they can surprise on nights they click. So what are the storylines to watch? Giddey's evolution, for one. He must improve shot selection, increase his efficiency, and reduce turnovers. If he becomes a more disciplined floor leader, the entire offensive schematic opens up. Buzelis' leap, at his age, consistency is rare. But if he can become a rotation-level starter with two-way impact, it accelerates Chicago's timeline. Vucevic's role and durability. He's dependable, but age and wear can catch up. How many heavy minutes can he endure? If he falters, that's a vulnerability. Or Okoro's defensive influence. He's the kind of player who doesn't need the ball to matter, diving for loose balls, taking the toughest assignments, and providing energy that can change momentum. If his corner three develops, he could quietly become one of Chicago's most important swing players. Bench production and spacing are the most important part here. The onus is on Collins, Herter, Williams, Albright, and Asenge to provide shooting, defense, and sustain leads. If that group can stabilize games, Chicago's upside rises. Billy Donovan must strike the balance between pushing competitive lineups and giving the youth floor time. How he manages minutes, matchups, and development signals whether Chicago remains stagnant or begins real progress. Risks are real. Injury, shooting inconsistency, and struggles to compete nightly against stronger rosters. The Central Division is deep, and slip-ups are costly. But bottom line, this isn't a rebuilding year in name only. It's a developmental window with flashes. I believe the Bulls land solidly at 36 wins this season. It's modest, but it's meaningful growth. They'll push for games, eke out surprises, and grow into something stronger. So Chicago Bulls fans, expect a season of strides, flashes, and building towards something bigger. You won't see a finals run yet, but this is a step, and one that's worth watching. Next up, we head north to Detroit, a team coming off a solid 44-38 season and looking to build momentum in 25 and 26. That 44-38 mark is their best in years, and it gives real hope that this is no longer just a rebuild. There's a path upward. At the heart of Detroit's roster is Cade Cunningham, the two-way playmaker who anchors everything. He handles creation, scoring, and leadership. And this season, more than ever, the offense flows through him. On the interior, Jalen Duren provides rebounding, rim protection, and energy. He's one of the most promising bigs in the league, and how he matures defensively will matter tremendously for Detroit's ceiling. Supporting that core, you have Jaden Ivey, Karis LeVert, and Tobias Harris, all bringing scoring, spacing, and veteran versatility. LeVert adds another creator who can handle secondary playmaking duties, attack off the dribble, and take pressure off Cunningham. Ivey gives athleticism and slashing ability, and Harris continues as a polished veteran presence who can stabilize the rotation. The Pistons also added Duncan Robinson in a sign-and-trade with Miami, swapping Simone Fontecchio for a sharpshooter who can stretch defenses. That shooting upgrade is significant because spacing around Cunningham and Duren has always been a limiting factor. On the development front, keep an eye on Chaz Lanier, their 2025 second-round pick, and role players like Paul Reed and Isaiah Stewart, who bring energy and positional depth. The staff will lean on those younger pieces to step up in rotation minutes when needed. Now, when we talk about expectations, the betting market has Detroit's win total near 45.5. That's a very bullish number, which suggests that the league sees upside here, or at least potential regression from last year. Some analysts are closer to projecting in the low to mid-40s, but Detroit has the pieces, and if the supporting cast elevates, that 45-plus mark isn't out of reach. Given the roster, division toughness, and schedule, I see Detroit landing around 45 and 37 this season. Now, storylines you'll want to follow. First, Cunningham's efficiency and consistency. He's already a star, but can he clean up the turnovers, improve his shot distribution, and lead the second unit? His growth dictates Detroit's ceiling. Duren's defensive maturation. Offensively, he's already established, but can he guard bigger bodies, switch on the perimeter, and anchor Detroit's interior defense? If he can do that, this roster looks much firmer. Integration of Duncan Robinson. With his shooting, opposing lids spread out. The question, how quickly does he acclimate, especially in high leverage moments? The impact of Karis LeVert. He's that secondary playmaker who can steady the offense when Cunningham sits, or even close games alongside him. If he stays healthy and consistent, Detroit's backcourt depth improves dramatically. Bench and depth production. Players like Reed, Stewart, and Lanier. Can they deliver reliable minutes on defense, hustle, and secondary offense? If they can, Detroit turns more games their way. Injury management and chemistry is always an issue. The Eastern Conference is deep, and Detroit can't afford a long state of flux. Keeping your stars healthy, building cohesion, and finding late rotations will differentiate the good teams from the great teams. Detroit's path isn't without risk. If Levert's health becomes an issue, or Harris slows down, spacing cracks, if Ivy or Lanier don't adjust to the NBA speed nightly, the rotation becomes much thinner, and the division competition with Cleveland, Indiana, and Milwaukee is unforgiving. But here's the thing. I believe Detroit's roster is positioned to exceed expectations. My bet lands them at 45 wins. That's 45 and 37. That's growth, relevance, and one more step toward long-term contention. All right, folks, let's keep this Central Division preview rolling with one of the NBA's most fascinating teams this year, the Milwaukee Bucks. A squad that's trying to prove they're still part of the Eastern Conference elite after some ups and downs the past few seasons. Now, at the center of it all, as always, is Giannis, the Greek freak. He's entering his 13th season, and he's still one of one. We've talked before about how rare it is to see a player sustain dominance for this long. The motor, the production, the leadership, Giannis remains the tone setter for Milwaukee. Everything they do, every scheme, every possession runs through his energy and versatility. This year, though, he's got some new running mates, and that's where things get interesting. The Bucks front office made some big decisions in the offseason, reshaping this roster around Giannis' strengths and longevity. The biggest move? Bringing in Miles Turner from the Indiana Pacers. Turner is a major addition. He's one of the league's top rim protectors and a legitimate stretch five. Pairing him next to Giannis gives the Bucks an entirely new defensive look. Long, mobile, switchable, and offensively, Turner's ability to hit the three opens up the floor. You're going to see a lot more five-out sets and high pick and pop action between Giannis and Turner. That'll make defenses think twice about collapsing in the paint. Then you've got Kyle Kuzma, who came over and instantly adds a shot of versatility. Kuzma's not just a scorer anymore. He's become a reliable secondary playmaker and a willing defender. He can slide between the 3 and 4 spots, and that kind of positional flexibility is gold in today's NBA. The Bucks are going to need him to be consistent, especially on nights when the offense bogs down. Now let's talk about Gary Trent Jr. Re-signed in the offseason to stay in Milwaukee, and this was a smart keep. Trent's a steady two-way guard who can knock down shots from deep and defend the opposing team's top perimeter guys. He'll likely start or serve as the first wing off the bench, depending on the matchups. But either way, his shooting and effort level make him indispensable. And then there's Bobby Portis, the heart and soul guy. Every team needs one. That energy, that edge, that we're not backing down personality. Portis has carved out a legacy in Milwaukee because of that. Whether he's starting or coming off the bench, his rebounding and mid-range scoring still give the Bucks a punch they can rely on. Another piece worth watching is AJ Green. He's quietly developed into a reliable shooter off the bench, and his spacing could help offset some of the offensive droughts that plagued Milwaukee last year. And of course, Andre Jackson Jr. will have a role to play on the wing, especially defensively. Now, coaching-wise, the Bucks enter the season with renewed focus. After turbulence of coaching changes and lineup experiments last season, they've emphasized structure and continuity. Giannis and the staff have reportedly been working on stabilizing the half-court offense, which stalled out too often when isolation sets took over. The hope is that a more modern, ball movement-based attack keeps the pace with the younger, faster teams in the East. Let's talk about expectations, because that's what fans really want to know. A lot of sports books have the Bucks win total hovering around 50.5 wins. That number suggests optimism, not runaway championship talk, but certainly playoff caliber. Analysts are split. Some have them closer to 48, others flirting with 52, depending on how Giannis' supporting cast gets. And I think that range feels right. This is still one of the better rosters in the East, but it's not the same Bucks team from their title run. The margins are much thinner now. To hit that 50-win mark, they'll need consistent health from Giannis, Turner, and Kuzma, they can't afford long absences. Another key is the chemistry. You can't fake continuity. And for a team integrating new pieces, that learning curve can cost you a handful of games early. So, what's realistic? After factoring in schedule, strength, division competition, and roster health, my projection for Milwaukee is 50-32. That should comfortably place them in the top 3 or 4 in the East and squarely in the mix for home court advantage in the first round. Now let's hit a few storylines to watch this season. Giannis's evolution. He's still dominant, but we're watching him expand more as a facilitator. Expect him to average close to 6 or even 7 assists per game as the Bucks lean into using him as a point forward in certain lineups. Miles Turner's defensive impact. Milwaukee struggled protecting the rim when Brook Lopez was traded, and Turner's job is to restore that identity. If he stays healthy and fits defensively with Giannis, this team's defensive rating could skyrocket. Kuzma's consistency is key. He's capable of big nights, but the Bucks need him to be steady. 17 to 20 points a game, good shot selection, active defense. If he provides that nightly, Milwaukee has a legitimate third option. Bench reliability. We talked about Portis, Trent Jr., AJ Green, but the rookie contributors will have to hold down the fort when the stars sit. Milwaukee can't afford long bench droughts in a competitive East field. And finally, playoff positioning. Milwaukee's not just playing for seeding, they're playing for statement wins. Matches ups against Boston, New York, Cleveland, that will tell us whether this version of the Bucks is closer to a contender or a middle-tier playoff team. To wrap this up, I'll say this. Milwaukee's championship window, it isn't closed, it's just evolving. Giannis is still that guy. Turner fits. Kuzma adds depth. If they can stay healthy and find cohesion, this team can absolutely win 50 games and make noise in May. Bucks fans, this year might not be a banner year, but it's a statement year. The roster's deep enough, the talent's proven enough, and if everything breaks just right, the Bucks will be back where they belong, near the top of the East, making opponents earn every inch. And hey, before we move on to the next team, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit that like button, drop a comment with your Bucks predictions, and make sure you subscribe for more division previews every episode. Next, we're going to Indiana and the Indiana Pacers, a team that made an unforgettable run to the NBA Finals last season, capturing hearts across the league with their resilience and team chemistry. But as we turn the page to 2025 and 26, things look a bit different in Indy. The challenge this time around is enormous, because their engine, their leader, Tyrese Halliburton, won't be suiting up. Halliburton tore his right Achilles tendon in Game 7 of the Finals, a devastating end to a magical run. He's going to miss the entire 2025 and 26 season, with an earliest possible return sometime around November of 2026. His absence leaves a giant hole not only in the Pacers' playmaking ability, but in their leadership and locker room heartbeat. That means Andrew Nebbard is going to have to step up and take over a starting point guard role. He's got the size, poise, and basketball IQ to run the offense, but this will be his first full season carrying that kind of responsibility. This season is really about growth and opportunity for the rest of the roster as well. Benedict Mathurin is going to have to carry more of the scoring load and be looked at to become a reliable secondary scorer. Behind him, Ben Shepherd's role has suddenly become more important. He'll be counted on for defense, perimeter shooting, and energy off the bench, the kind of player who can make a real difference in close games. Up front, Pascal Siakam will anchor the team. He's the veteran presence, the go-to scorer, and the player the others can lean on when the pressure is on. Alongside him is Obi Toppin. He will bring energy, athleticism, and versatility. He's the type of forward who can run the floor in transition, crash the boards, and give the Pacers a lift when things start to lag. His contributions may not always show up in the box score, but his presence can swing momentum in key stretches. I'm projecting the Pacers to finish around 38-44. That puts them in the middle to lower tier of the Central Division, but still competitive enough to flirt with the play-in picture if things break the right way. There are a few storylines to watch closely. First, Nebard's growth. Can he manage the offense and make smart decisions as a primary playmaker? Second, Mathurin's development. Can he become a consistent scoring option night in and night out? Ben Shepherd's emergence is definitely interesting. Can he provide steady minutes and an energy off the bench? The front court balance is also an issue. How impactful can Obi Toppin be both on the boards and in transition? And finally, how does Rick Carlisle adjust? He's going to have to tweak rotations, manage minutes, to get that out of most of his players, and especially in a season that he doesn't have its leader out there. Despite all of these challenges, there's still a lot to be optimistic about. This Pacers team is young, tough, and battle-tested from last year's run. If they continue developing, the 25 and 26 season could be the perfect bridge year, setting them up for another deep playoff push when Halliburton returns next season. Stay tuned, because up next, we'll break down the Cleveland Cavaliers and wrap up our Central Division preview. Yay! Lastly, we're going to dive into the Cleveland Cavaliers, a team that absolutely dominated the Eastern Conference last season with a 64-18 record, the best in the NBA. But then they ran into a wall in the playoffs, falling 4-1 to the Indiana Pacers in the Eastern Conference semifinals. That was a tough pill to swallow for a team with championship expectations, but it sets the stage for an intriguing 2025 and 26 season. The Cavs have been busy this offseason, making moves to ensure they can go deeper in the playoffs this year. They brought in Lonzo Ball via trade to run the point and added his elite playmaking and defensive versatility. Larry Nance Jr. and Thomas Bryant also joined the roster, giving Cleveland more depth and athleticism inside. At the same time, some familiar faces like Isaac Okoro have moved on, and Ty Jerome and Javonte Green are no longer with the team. These changes sharpen the roster and make the Cavs more flexible in rotations. Looking at the lineup we expect to see on opening night, we have Darius Garland, as he will lead at point guard. He's already a dynamic floor general and scorer, and this year the Cavs will rely on him even more to set the tone. Donovan Mitchell handles the shooting guard duties, bringing in elite scoring and ability to break defenses with both pace and craft. At small forward, DeAndre Hunter's defensive skills and spacing ability are crucial, especially against the high-powered wings in the East. Evan Mobley is locked in at power forward, and his defensive presence plus his passing make him a rare, impactful big man. Jared Allen rounds out the starting five at center, anchoring the paint and giving the team a reliable rim protector. From a betting and analysis perspective, the Cavaliers are highly regarded, but opinions vary on their win total. They have some predictions as low as 50, some as high as 57. Those numbers suggest that the Cavs are expected to be a top team, but there's recognition that consistency and playoff performance will matter just as much as talent. Our projection places the Cleveland Cavaliers at 55-27. There are several storylines to watch this season. First, health and depth are key. Garland, Mitchell, and Mobley must stay on the floor, and the Cavs' new additions give them insurance if anyone needs a break. There's the question of the playoff performance. After last year's early exit, the team is determined to prove they belong in the final rounds, but do they truly have enough to get there? Their ability to adjust to pressure situations and maintain composure will be a main factor. Development of young players like Tyrese Proctor and Seilu Niang could give Cleveland extra scoring punch and defensive flexibility. Watching these players earn minutes in impact games will be fascinating. The Cavaliers also face a challenging schedule in the East, with multiple matchups against the Knicks, Celtics, and the Miami Heat. These contests will not only set the tone for the season, but also indicate how Cleveland stacks up against its toughest competition. Chemistry, execution, and staying healthy will be the difference between a strong regular season and a deep playoff run. In summary, the Cleveland Cavaliers are entering the 2025 and 26 season with high expectations. a strong starting lineup, and a bolstered bench. With Kenny Atkinson's coaching, the integration of Lonzo Ball, and the continued growth of Garland, Mitchell, and Mobley, this team is well positioned to contend for a top seed in the Eastern Conference once again. If everything clicks, health, chemistry, and performance, the Cavs could make a serious run towards the NBA Finals. Cleveland fans, buckle up, because this season is going to be both exciting and telling. Now, before we go today, let's take a look at our Central Division predictions heading into the 25 and 26 season, how each team stacks up based on our current projections. Starting at the bottom, the Chicago Bulls are projected to finish 36 and 46. This is a team with talent and potential, but consistency and health could be issues that keep them near the lower tier of the division. Next, the Indiana Pacers come in slightly ahead at 38 and 44. Even without Tyrese Halliburton, they're expected to remain competitive, leaning on young players like Andrew Nebbard, Benedict Mathurin, Ben Shepherd, and Obi Toppin to keep them in the mix for a possible play-in spot. Moving up, the Detroit Pistons are forecasted at 45 and 37. Detroit looks like a team that could make a push toward the top half of the division, blending young talent with some veteran stability to compete night in and night out. The Milwaukee Bucks are projected to finish at 50 and 32, representing one of the strongest or stronger squads in the East. With a mix of experience, star power, and supporting talent, they should be in the thick of the playoff conversation and a serious contender in the Central. Finally, leading the division, the Cleveland Cavaliers are forecasted at 55 and 27. This team has momentum, talent, and depth, making them the team to beat in the Central. If they stay healthy, they'll likely contend for home court advantage deep into the playoffs. So there's the landscape of the Central Division, from the rebuilding Bulls to the powerhouse Cavaliers. It's shaping up to be a competitive race with a lot of intrigue from top to bottom. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, follow, and share so you never miss an episode. And don't go anywhere. Next episode, we'll dive into the Southeast Division, breaking down the Miami Heat, Atlanta Hawks, and more. You won't want to miss it. And remember, here at RoundBall Rants, it's not just basketball, it's therapy with a bounce.